Hey Supermom! We know every mom has a desire and the ability to be a supermom who does it all. So tune in to the Crunchy Supermom Show and let's design a holistic life that fits. Hey Supermoms, I'm Sarah.
And I'm Andy.
We are your hosts and the creators of the Crunchy Supermom blog. If you missed the last episode, tune into it at episode 011, where we talked about our messy homes. And yes, it's true, they're messy every single day. In this episode today, we are talking about moments when good kids go bad. And of course, we don't literally mean bad at all, but simply those times when your little one goes from being completely sweet to incredibly difficult, seemingly overnight. We're going to talk about the developmental leaps and milestones, also known as the Wonder Weeks, as Dr. Franz likes to call them. So we're just going to get to it, and you'll get to know us more by tuning in. And be sure to subscribe so you never miss an episode. Our power plan for today's episode can be found at crunchysupermom.com/012. And we've added a segment to our shows called the 2-Minute Tear Apart, where we closely examine something we've come across in our lives to determine if it fits our goal of living a healthy life. And at the end of the 2 minutes, you should know the ins and outs of the practice or product we tear apart. So I'm going to put 2 minutes on the clock.
All
and
right.
today I'm going to tear apart water kefir. First of all, is it kefir or kefir? What's your take on that?
It's kefir. We say it wrong.
Kefir.
Yeah.
Okay.
But nobody knows what you're talking about, so I just go with kefir.
I know, or kefir. I love that one.
Yeah.
No, I'm having a lot of trouble getting my home ferments happy in my new house down here in the South. So I'm either looking for the magic answer to making it really good or a reason to let it go in this season of my life. The most frustrating thing to me is that water kefir. It's I understand that it's essentially a symbiotic culture of bacteria and yeast that's SCOBY, just like our kombucha starter.
Mm-hmm.
And it's added to purified water with sugar and some minerals of some type, however you want to add those, lemon peel or some sea salt. And you leave it in a dark spot for a day or two and then bottle it, and you can flavor it if you want before you drink it. And it becomes a fizzy, healthy probiotic soda, essentially. I started making it for the purported health benefits a long time ago, before I was really ready to try raw milk kefir or anything like that. I'm never going to remember that.
No, yeah.
But I ultimately ended up using the water kefir to mask other things like strong herbal infusions.
Right.
And I think that's what you do, right?
That is what I do. Yeah. Mostly we have it for fun too.
Yeah. It's really tasty. Now, a lot of people say that it has the similar health benefits to dairy kefir. And I think I've heard you say that you don't believe that at all, right?
I still think I have not seen the good bacteria profile like you see in the dairy.
Yep. And so I listened to you and I went and did some research, and I was kind of disappointed because nowhere does it say it contains Lactobacillus rhamnosus or L. reuteri. I can never say that right.
Yeah,
but these are the two, they're the two most important probiotics for promoting gut health and kind of healing from gut problems.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to run out of time here, but I found 10. There we go. I'm going to finish this out anyway, but I found 10 total bacterium that could potentially occur in the water kefir and about 4 yeast, which I guess that's good, but this is not that great compared to the 23 bacterium and 9 yeast that you find in the milk kefir, and that's including the rhamnosus and the L. reuteri. Mm-hmm. And that's basically what you get in high-quality probiotic tablets that are really expensive.
Right.
But I'm not sure if making the water kefir is really great for gut healing potential. I think it's just a fun ferment that has more health benefits than something like LaCroix.
That's kind of how I see it too. I mean, we put it with our herbal infusions because the kids like it then, and it's good. We're making it with, after you told me about the mango powder.
Yeah.
And we've got the fruit and the mango from Wilderness, the powder, and so we're making it that, and so it turns all pink with the fruit.
Ooh.
Yeah. So they're like, whoa, so exciting. And they call it soda because that's what I call it. So that's what they think they're drinking.
Nice.
Yeah.
Cheese scented soda.
Right, yeah.
Yeah. For our listeners, if you've never tasted water kefir or drank it, there's this cheese smell. I mean, it definitely to me smells like cheddar cheese powder.
Right.
and then you drink it and you're like, oh, this is sweet, sugary soda.
Yeah.
So
it's so good. It's so good. It is really good. So for them to have something that's like that, that's like, you know, a drink, they love it. So it's a treat.
Yeah, I'm not going to stop making it, but it's really annoying me right now. So I might have to start over with some fresh grains or something because, yeah.
It ebbs and flows. Like maybe even give it a rest in your refrigerator, because sometimes that can, like, mine will be like almost dead for some reason. I ignored it too long, gets mad at me. I don't know. But I put it in the fridge with some like the Succonaut or the Rapadura or the Heavenly Sugar.
Yeah.
And it just resting in there for a few days and then pulling it out. Like it's happier. I don't know.
Okay. Well, I'll try that.
Don't be afraid to like necessarily give it a rest for a few days, or I maybe did it for a week or more and it worked out well.
Okay. Well, I can do that.
Yeah. It's easy to give it a rest.
Yeah. No problem there.
Yeah. Okay, we're going to start our discussion here at the very beginning with the Wonder Weeks. And according to research, they're predictable times during a baby's first year of life, and others will state that these weeks can continue throughout life when you look at it like, you know, midlife crisis and other things like that. Maybe they never end, you know, but these Wonder Weeks are at the beginning where their babies are more demanding and fussy, and other weeks where they're more calm. It's during these fussy weeks, the babies are often making big steps in their development. And while these Wonder Weeks are certainly not the only reason for changes in your little one, I know we've both seen very often our own children big changes in the fussiness, wanting to nurse nonstop, and even not sleeping anymore, or, you know, something crazy with the sleep usually. And those things were not attributable to any other causes. And so we see it so obviously in the physical skills, where one day they're immobile and suddenly they can roll over. I mean, I had one of my kids go from not even trying to roll over to like practically flipping off the bed. I was like, totally unprepared, because it was like all of a sudden just flipped himself over. Like, so not even trying before. And so they can go from crawling to walking in 24 hours. Mm-hmm. I mean, so whenever they can do all that physically, it's possible too, to me, it makes sense that mental development also can happen in that giant of a leap, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, the Wonder Weeks is one of those popular kind of mainstream books, but the research that Dr. Franz did is actually fascinating, and it's pretty solid. He solely studied the brain development. So that's kind of what sets this book apart from all the other technique-based baby books like Happiest Toddler on the Block and all those kind of baby training type books or parenting type books. He truly knows when you can expect a mental leap based on brain development. And there's some other pioneers of their time that I found to have similar types of leaps that they've studied. Not in the infant ones, they actually line up perfectly with Dr. Franz. But like Waldorf Steiner and Maria Montessori are two of my favorite. And they didn't help me really understand a cranky baby as much as the Wonder Weeks did. They do help me understand how my children learn at different times of their lives. And the Steiner information, the Waldorf stuff, it talks about the changes in life, like the great change that occurs at age 6. And it's definitely been accurate with my kids so far. Mm-hmm. But yeah, these leaps, they keep going.
Yeah, they don't end.
No.
At least not in my experience. But not that we're like have that old kids, but they just keep right and going. Right. And let's see some examples just so that we can tell everybody how they can manifest, maybe if they have very young children. Right. But and I would say here, I don't look at the actual weeks and numbers, because I know some people say, well, when were they due versus when they were born? You know, just it's more of a generalized thought to me, I think, on the approximate age in the weeks, because I feel like they develop their own pace. I don't know. My first was like 3 weeks late, so I feel like he did everything early, but it could have just been, I don't know, me thinking that way. But I see most often is more crying, more fussiness, and the absolute need to be held and be close, even during a nap. Even if I was being able to like lie them, put them on the bed before, I put them in their own, like, you know, any kind of like carry besides being on me, they'll change, and they'll go to being completely need to be on me at all times. They're changing their ability to go to sleep or stay asleep, and babies that are just more easily upset over anything. How about you? What are your like signs that you always see?
Yeah, I had the same. And for me, even though the kids were all born or like late, they're all late by some form. The brain development thing was almost within like 3 to 6 days for all of the kids for me.
Really?
But then, like, talking about older children, my favorite two instances are talking about basically the 0 to 7 age range is called the age of the will development, where kids are spending the entire stage of their life learning how to control their bodies. And that makes complete sense. Mm-hmm. And then age 7 to 14 is the age of feeling, which I think I've talked to you about when my 7.5-year-old was going into 8. It was awful because it was all emotions. It was just so unexpected.
Right.
And then age 14 to 21 is the age of thinking. I love that it goes to 21 because it just proves that 18 is not an adult, at least not in the mental and thinking capacity.
Yep.
And it's all been so true for my girls. And I'm going to share the links to this in the Power Plan for more study because it's in depth, but it's really easy to read and it's incredibly empowering to kind of understand why your good kids are going bad. And I'm using air quotes there. It lays out exactly how your child is or will be at a certain age. And again, yes, kids develop physically and emotionally on their own level, but their brain develops pretty much at the same pace no matter what. And so some of these big things that happen, all the kids go through it. What it looks like is a little bit different, based on their personality, but it's generally the same. And I mean, the links I'm going to give you, it's going to be encouraging for you to read when you're up late asking Google, what did I do wrong to create such a monstrous 6-year-old child? Like, what's wrong with them, And the answer, and my second favorite illustration of the power of developmental leaps, is the 6-year-old change that the Waldorf philosophy references. Mm-hmm. The child learns they have power. They have power to elicit emotions from others and power to make changes in their environment and so much more. They realize that infinity exists and they sense a higher power of some kind, God, if that's part of your life, or, it's just a spiritual awareness. I could go on and on. I'm going to include these links because it's just so much good information. And if nothing else, you're going to realize that every child goes through these leaps from birth, all the way up to 21 and probably even into adulthood. We just haven't, looked at that yet.
We don't identify them ourselves.
No, I'm like, I don't want to know. But no, and there's nothing you did to cause them. And knowing this and knowing what the purpose of those difficult periods is can actually help you cope. And I know it helps me stay calm and face the child, like that change that they're going through, as a good thing versus seeing my kid, as this good kid that's gone bad. That's definitely what we are hoping for everyone to understand, like with this episode today.
Yeah, I think that's the big key here. And just the first step toward being better able to handle these hard times, mm-hmm. is recognizing it's real. This is real. And it's not necessarily your new normal, because that's how I was with my first. I'm like, oh my goodness, this is forever. Like this phase is forever. And, they're like, oh no, it's not going to last forever. But at that time you feel like it. And I mean, I spent with my first baby, I probably spent, I don't know, half of my time researching what should be normal. And it was really nice to read others' experiences about the same types of issues we were going through. So it felt more, I felt more calm about it instead of like just on an island with my child I didn't know what was happening to.
Right.
And so if you can predict, this fussy or wonder week, it's amazing because you can kind of even curtail your routine around this behavior. It is difficult to me though, because you don't know exactly how that's going to manifest in your child. Mm-hmm. And just knowing the approximate times did help me a lot. And we'll have like all that links in the Power Plan about which weeks are what to expect kind of. And I think that will hopefully help everyone be able to see that. Yeah, absolutely. And like you said, you don't know what it's kind of going to look like exactly for your kids, for your baby. But I liked how they, in the book especially, they lay out how long the leaps are going to last, because the older they get, the longer those leaps last. I mean, that 6-month one, and I remember, I think it's like the 15 or 18-month one was so long. That's when my child stopped sleeping forever, and it literally felt like forever. The rest of her life.
Yeah, so far it has been the rest of her life.
But it won't be, right?
Yeah, like shred the book because it doesn't go all the way through age 3. But the developmental periods that they talk about in the Waldorf books continue through life with very specific details about each year of life. I mean, the 6-year one is, I want to say it's like 15 pages long, and it's incredible to read. So they talk about each year of life, and then the halves, always in my experience, like 1.5, 2.5 on up, they've been really difficult periods. I basically just call them like halves are evil. It's the truth. The actual start of the year isn't always bad, but there's something new to kind of look forward to, whether they're having like a new wave of hormones surging through their bodies, causing some interest in knowing more about their genitals, or they simply understand the world in a way that like obedience is no longer the only option in their day-to-day lives. I don't know if you've ever heard this about like kindergarten teachers. They say they always know when someone's about to turn 6 because they no longer walk with the crowd of 5-year-olds. So like the 5-year-olds will all kind of go like a swarm of fish, and then the 6-year-olds just kind of go the other way just because they can. They have now learned that there's such thing as like something beyond the boundary. So it's pretty interesting.
It is. I saw a huge difference from 5 to 6 and 6 to 7. It's just like giant. And yes, the halves are always, and even now, I mean, my oldest is 10 and my youngest is now like, she's 3. And it's like, we're like, what is going on? This is why we're saying the chart, because you forget. I don't know. You forget each time. It seems like we're like, oh, it's their half birthday. Right. And it really, like, we always seem to notice it, but yet we're always surprised somehow where you see the behavior and then have to tell ourselves, this is the half birthday. There's something else going on with them. Right. And, I guess around 18 months, like you said, they happen less frequently. And that's whenever I feel like it got harder for me. And I feel like just reminding myself made a huge difference that I have to be more nurturing, even though it's what I don't feel like doing always, because it's not a little baby anymore, and they become more and more demanding. And so it can get tougher I feel like to show empathy and be nurturing during those difficult times.
Right. And it's not, as soon as it starts to happen, and this is the limitation of Dr. Franz's work, like as soon as it starts to happen, you are either complaining to your spouse or you're complaining to your friends. And then you're probably like me, I go out and I'll find the next best book to read, right, to fix this problem. And then as soon as it's almost as if as soon as it happened, it started, it's over. I mean, it definitely takes longer. I know this like 7.5 I talked to you about it quite a bit. I mean, it was like a really challenging period because of my expectations of her being 7.5. You're so much smarter, more responsible, get it together. But then I realized like this just has to be that 7.5 thing. And it's true, like you're saying, the brain doesn't grow as quickly after the first few years of life. So those leaps that our kids go through kind of get spaced out. And the 6-month streaks, they're not on par with like brain development anymore as much as just learning about the world. And, the fascination with that invisible stuff that occurs around age 6.5, it's really fun to read about because the kids start wanting to go higher when they climb and build taller things. And they realize the sky is not the limits of the world. And there's some negative traits that parents have the joy of enduring too. Like this is it's the first time your child really needs to be the boss or they lose their cool. Right. And a 6.5-year-old tantrum is like nothing else. And I think because we homeschool, our 6.5-year-olds have those tantrums in public, because they're not at school. And so I think that it seems way worse for us because of that. I mean, they're just these rational, logical little beings with a really good vocabulary, but they have these intense emotions that they can't process quick enough. And so it's really interesting, but just learning that this happens and it's normal. And I love your word, the disequilibrium. I love that word.
That's just what it seems like. With them, they're just in this state, and I, again, by myself trying to understand, and that's why the chart will be helpful, I think, because I just need to be able to keep my cool and realize they're not acting this way on purpose. Things are going to even out over time. And another one of the most difficult times for me has been with my boys, and they've hit the age of 5 or 5.5. And I don't know what it is about that age. And some people say it's testosterone spiking in males at that age, but other people say that it's not. There's no proof of this. So, I mean, maybe not, but I've definitely seen all 3 boys go through a really rough phase at this time. And after my first made it through, we knew kind of what to expect. Like once we saw it, we're like, oh yeah, this is the 5.5, you know, and I don't know what's going to be like with a girl, if it'll be the same or not, but you know, because my little girl's only 3, but I still have to remind myself on my third little boy, who's now 5, that 5 is a tough age, and I just have to have patience. And because it seems like this phase is all about playing and playing really roughly and exploring the world in a way that we just don't understand or appreciate at all. And sometimes, I mean, even sitting still for a meal will make him, I mean, he has to run like laps around the house afterwards just to like get his energy out. But yeah, if he's sitting doing something else, he can just laser focus and just play as hard as he, you know, it's not like he has like some hyperactiveness or anything. It's just this need inside of him that he has to fulfill. I don't know. But yeah, definitely more rough. And it seems like I can see why they say that testosterone boost, even if it's not true. Because it seems that way. And I know you don't have boys, but you do have a lot of experience understanding them, and you definitely know more about the female patterns maybe because you have 3 little girls. But I'm just starting that because my little girl was only 3. So it's very different to me.
Yeah. And the physical thing, I have not had that so far with the 5 or 5.5. Even my middle Ainsley, like who is really physical, she likes to be physical. I didn't notice any difference. She's not really a rough player by nature. In fact, she kind of gets overwhelmed with it. So I don't know, that could be a boy versus girl thing, but the research really doesn't say much about boys and girls differing until around age 9. And you've already passed that already with 1. Yeah. And but boys don't really shift into the puberty mode, at least not typically until age 10 or later. And 8, so shocking. 8 is becoming a real potential shift for girls in our society today. And I just can't even.
No, that's so young.
It is. And knowing that that's coming, though, that 8 is the time when, I mean, she'd kill me if I said this, but she noticed that after soccer the other day, she's like, Mom, I think my armpits smell like onions. And I was, oh my gosh, I went straight to my medical books. I was like, oh my gosh, is this a problem? But apparently she only takes a couple showers a week. She just needs to shower more. It's not a sign of puberty at 8, but man, you know, just knowing that those things are going to happen and what's that going to do to her emotions and her needs and all that stuff. It's just crazy. And I know that, you know, as adults, you and I probably remember going through our teen years more than we remember these very early years, like leading up to age 10. Yeah. I don't remember it being hard as a kid until the teen years, you know, where nobody understands me, you know, but I think that the kids have those moments even now, you know, where, and here we are as parents, we're seeing this diminishment in our empathy because we don't remember being that way. And we're seeing our good kids going bad. And that's just not the case. I mean, it's just really not. And maybe squashing their leaps is what's going to make them, you know, act out in a truly, you know, mischievous way, like in a bad way, like no quotes, quotes, like really bad. Yeah.
Right. It could be. That's probably really true.
Yeah. And so we're going to put together a chart, and I like how Manny described it when we were brainstorming this about you can hang it somewhere, probably by your candy stash, wherever you go to cope with a really rough day with your kids, and hang it up, hang this chart up that we're going to get made for you. Just to kind of remind yourself, is this a leap? Is this a time when my kid is going through something bigger than I can see with my own eyes? Right. We just hope this episode provide a little bit of insight into those wonder weeks, the disequilibrium that your children are going through, that they all go through. And Supermoms, we really want to hear more about your experience with these times and answer any questions you might have, share your experiences with us. We're going to invite you to our private Facebook group. If you download the power plan for this episode, you can leave us a comment in iTunes so other supermoms like you can find us. And you can get that power plan at crunchysupermom.com/012. And again, it's going to have a quick reference tool for what we've talked about here today.